All right, so for my thanks on the front of the card, I actually die cut it 3 times. And for this card, I'm doing the shadow that I'm using. I'm die cutting the top part as well for this card in glitter cardstock, but I'm also die cutting it in the blue, and I'm going to be using that on a different card. Just have to remember how I had this laid out. So that's not going to go to waste. You could separate the dies and then cut them individually and not worry about it, but I didn't really see a need to separate them. I figured I might as well just use the part that I'm not using on this one for one of the other cards. And I just want to put it through a couple times, really not for any particular reason, because this die is new and it cuts really, really well, and it comes out of the machine really well. I've been doing a lot of 3D folders lately, and I guess I just got into the habit of running it through 3 times. So I'm just going to cut a piece of the glitter cardstock. This is just a scrap. Anytime I have scraps, unless they're really, really tiny, I keep them because they're perfect for cutting sentiments. The glitter cardstock, I will run it through both ways. And it did cut beautifully through all of it. So let's move the machine and assemble our sentiment here. Now you could, if you had trouble getting some of these little bits out, you could use a die pick. Most of them, as soon as you press the center part, the rest of it just falls out. This I'm tucking to the side. Like I said, I'll be using it for one of the other cards. All right. So all I'm going to do for these background pieces is I'm going to glue them on top of each other. So I am putting glue on the whole thing just because I want to make sure that nothing flips up. Lay it on top, and then I like to do it on the, or tap it on my surface so that the bottom is totally even. It kind of just lines it right up. Again, by using liquid adhesive, if something is not quite lined up, it's really easy to slide in place. Same with this one here. And then let's do our glitter right on top of that. I thought the glitter part was pretty just because it kind of echoes the stickles that are in the center of the flowers. And I love dies that have shadow like this because it just is a great way to frame it and give it more substance on a card. So I'm gluing it with that matte multi-medium, so if I have to shim it in place, or if I have to slide it in place and any of the glue is exposed, it's going to dry clear and it's going to dry matte, so you'll never know where there was some glue. All right, so let's glue. Actually, no, before we do that, let's glue this to the front of the card. The stickles are not totally dry, so I'm going to try to be careful and playing with fire for sure, because I tend to be the one that as soon as there's wet stickles somewhere, I put my hand in it. But I would recommend waiting till that stickles are completely dried, unless you like to live on the edge. Now I'm going to take some ribbon, and I just want to put it on top of that there. It's going to tie in with the green, and it's just going to be behind the thing, so it's not very, very noticeable. But it's just another element of that green. So when I do ribbon on a card, especially if I'm doing it so that it wraps around the back, I do it on my surface. I make my tape longer than the piece that I'm gluing it to. I take the backing off and then just put my tape right on there, or my ribbon right on there. And then by doing it on a surface like this, it just comes right off. Trim the ribbon and then just wrap it to the back there. This can get glued to the card base. And then we're going to glue the thanks on here. Now the thanks, because we're gluing it to the card as well as the ribbon's got a little bit of dimension to it, so it's going to be raised up higher than the card base. I am putting my adhesive over the whole thing. And I'm going to lay my die cut where I want it to go, centering it and making sure that it's flat on the bottom. And then I'm going to put a block here and just let it dry that way. So I'm going to let that completely dry, but that is what the card looks like when it's done. And like I said, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get a butterfly charm, could be a butterfly die cut, something like that, just to cover that up. Since this happens most of the time when you're nearly done a card front, sometimes it's easier to restart and do another one. Sometimes it's easier to come up with a creative fix that enhances the card, because a butterfly or a bee or just some sort of a bug that would be on the flower would totally suit it and would also cover that up, and then you don't have a waste of a card front that you've spent some time on.